Hello, my name is John Duriggi. I'm an application engineer with Keysight Technologies, and today I'd like to review with you a service note which is available for the N4903B. Specifically, this service note covers intermittent problems that you might run into related to communicating and automating the N4903B either over GPIB, LAN, or also USB. The complete service note can be found by navigating to the Keysight web page, www.keysight.com. And once the main page comes up, you're able to search for service notes, click on the first link, and enter N4903B. All the available service notes for any Agilent instrument is available here, and the specific service note that we'll be working through is service note 01E. And so it's a pretty lengthy service note, which has lots of good detail in it. What I'd like to review with you today are the most common set of steps that would allow you to regain communication with the N4903B over any of those three interfaces, LAN, USB, or GPIB. And so I've remotely connected to the N4903B, and the first troubleshooting step, if you're unable to communicate over any of the three interfaces, is to make sure that both the GUI, which is shown right here, is running, in addition to the firmware server. And if you minimize the GUI, you can see in the toolbar for Windows, there's also an N4900 series firmware server. Both of these have to be running in order to communicate with the instrument over any of the interfaces. The next thing we can quickly check is to make sure that the version of the I/O libraries on the N4903B is 15.5, and we can check that by right-clicking on the blue I/O icon and selecting About Agilent I/O Control. And you can see the version of the libraries that are installed on my instrument are 15.5. If you have a different version on your J-BERT, you can download 15.5 by navigating to the Keysight homepage and searching on I/O libraries. The first link that comes up is for the I/O library suite, and we want to make sure we download a previous version of the I/O libraries. So we can select downloading 7.1, and you can see there's a complete list of all the archived I/O libraries available at this link. We can select previous versions and then scroll down to 15.5. After installing 15.5, it's important to make sure we change a couple of settings in the I/O Libraries Connection Expert. We can access that by right-clicking on the blue I/O icon, selecting Agilent Connection Expert, and then checking to make sure there are three settings under GPIB 0 that are deselected. We need to make sure System Controller is set to No. We also need to make sure that Auto Discover is set to No, and we finally need to make sure that the interface is set to Ignore. And we can make sure these are set properly by going to Change Properties, making sure that both System Controller and Auto Discover are unchecked, and then also making sure that we select Ignore when we right-click on GPIB 0. Once you make these changes, it's very important to make sure you cycle power on the N4903B. Once the cycle power is complete, we need to check the I/O Configuration Manager. To navigate to it, we can minimize the N4903B GUI, we can open up the C drive, we can select Program Files, Agilent, I/O Library Suite, navigate to the bin directory, and if we scroll down we should see a utility called ioconfig32.exe. Once it's opened up, you can see the correct configuration for all of these interfaces. We need to make sure that the sickle name for GPIB 0 is lowercase GPIB 0. We need to make sure the sickle name for GPIB 1 is HPIB 7. The sickle name for GPIB 2 needs to be INST 0. And we also have to match both the TCP/IP 0 and the USB settings. Let me real quickly remove all of these and I'll show you how to reconfigure them if for some reason your instrument's different. These settings will impact control of the instrument over GPIB, USB, and LAN. And so we can delete all the interfaces except the GPIB 0 and the serial ports. We've already verified that the GPIB 0 is configured correctly in the Agilent Connection Expert. The first step is to add the GPIB 1, and on the left-hand side of the I/O config utility, we need to search for internal instrument, as shown right here. And once we highlight internal instrument, we can select Configure, and we should see the Visa interface name as GPIB1 and the SICL interface name as HPIB7. Once we've verified these are correct, we can select OK. The next step is to add the GPIB2 connection. Again, this is an internal instrument interface type, and so we can highlight the internal instrument, select Configure, and in this case we need to change the SICL interface name INST0. The next step is to add the TCP/IP interface. We can highlight TCP/IP, select Configure. We can use the default settings, press OK, and the final step is to highlight USB. Again, select Configure, and then press OK. Finally, we can select OK, and we're prompted to reboot the N4903B before any of the changes we've made will take effect. This is a very important step, and so we need to make sure we reboot the N4903B. After the N4903B is rebooted, we can check the I/O configuration one more time. Go to the C drive, select Program Files, select Agilent, select I/O Library Suite, the bin directory, and then scroll down until we see the I/O config 32. We can then open it up, and again we want to make sure that the Visa name and the SICL name match those that are shown here in the list. A final check before talking to it over any of the interfaces would also be to go back to the blue I/O icon in the toolbar, right click, select Utilities, and then scroll down to the VI Find 32 debug utility, and we should see the following interfaces available in this list. Again, it's very important to make sure that both the N4903B firmware server and the N4903B GUI are running in the background when we make this check. And then the final step is to make sure that we can communicate with the N4903B using the Keysight Connection Expert on the client PC. And so I can open the Keysight Connection Expert, go to Manual Configuration, enter an IP address for the N4903B, and we should see the N4903B come up on the client PC, and we should be able to send commands to the instrument to verify its ID. Similar steps can be performed over USB and also GPIB. If for some reason this doesn't work, please contact your local Keysight contact center. The service note on the web page also has a lot of good detail